Hello, dear viewers! Today, I will share with you an overview about the grammatical features of persuasive text. This presentation mainly focuses on the verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. By the way, this lecture is based on the Pivot 4A Learner's Material for English 8 2020 edition. What is a persuasive text? It is a selection or passage that contains one's personal emotion, idea, or response to an issue. It provides one's standpoints as to how issues should be addressed and examined. It mainly expresses argumentation, exposition, discussion, review, and evaluation. Technically, expressing persuasion may exist not only in text but also in pictures. In writing a persuasive text, the write-up includes: first, a statement of position or the overview of argumentation revealing one's standpoint. Second, an argumentation of the supporting evidences relative to one's standpoint. And third, a reinforcement of one's standpoint or the summary of one's position based on the point of argumentation. In a persuasive text, the use of certain grammatical features help in emphasizing one's viewpoint. Commonly, understanding the context of verbs, adjectives, and adverbs aid in strengthening one's position. However, right choice of words still matters. Let's have a quick look on verbs. Verbs express action or state of being. They determine the subject as the doer or receiver of an action. They also complete the thought of a sentence. Basically, verbs have four principal parts, known as the base form, present participle form, past form, and past participle form. For examples, we have the verb want as the base form, wanting as the present participle form, wanted as the past form, and wanted as the past participle form. Next is plant as the base form, planting as the present participle form, planted as the past form, and planted again for the past participle form. Another is rise as the base form, rising as the present participle form, rose as the past form, and risen as the past participle form. Next is drive as the base form, driving as the present participle form, drove as the past form, and driven as the past participle form. Lastly, we have set as the base form, setting as the present participle form, set as the past form, and set as well for the past participle form. It is easy to recognize and or change a base form of the verb to its present participle form because we simply add the suffix ing to the base form of the verb. Say want to wanting or plant to planting. It just gets a little bit confusing when we talk about past form and past participle form. For most verbs, changing a base form of the verb to the past and the past participle form is also easy because we simply add the suffix d or ed to the base form, and we already have the past form and past participle form. Say want to wanted or plant to planted. These types of verbs are what we call regular verbs. For irregular verbs, changing base form of the verb to its past form or past participle form is a bit tricky because if most of the times the spelling changes, sometimes there is no change in spelling at all. Say rise to rose for the past form and risen for past participle form, or drive to drove for the past form and driven for the past participle form. And sometimes set to set for the past form and set as well for the past participle form. There is no change in spelling. Regular and irregular verbs are the classifications of verbs. Like what I said, regular verbs form their past tense and past participle form by adding d or ed. Meanwhile, irregular verbs are formed by either a change in spelling or sometimes no change at all. Say for example, jump to jumped to jumped, or pray to prayed to prayed. That's for regular verbs. While we have catch, caught, caught, or see, saw, seen for irregular verbs. There are two voices of verbs. These are active voice and passive voice. In active voice, the subject is the doer of the action, while in passive voice, the subject is the receiver of the action. For example, the students submitted their project to their teacher. In this example, notice that students, being the subject, performed the action, and that is submitted. Or the verb submitted is an action performed by the subject, which is the students. So in this case, the voice is active. In the next example, their project was submitted by the students to their teacher. The subject project is acted upon by the students, and the received action is that it was submitted. In this case, the voice is passive. There's more about verbs that we need to know. They have tenses. We have simple tenses and perfect tenses. Simple tenses are further classified as simple present tense, simple past tense, and simple future tense. Simple present tense tells an action that is repeated or ongoing. The verb is usually in its base form or sometimes with the suffix s. For example, the sun rises in the east. It's a known fact that the sun does rise in the east, so we have the simple present form of the verb, which is rises. The next one is simple past tense. It tells an action that happened already in the past. For example, Jason visited his family last year. In this example, the action took place in the past, so we have the simple past tense of the verb, which is visited. The last one for simple tenses is the simple future tense. It tells an action that will happen in the future. The verb is always preceded by the auxiliary verb will or shall. For example, Nathan will fly to Davao next week. In this example, the verb speaks of future action, and that is will fly. So again, we have three classifications of simple tenses. These are simple present, simple past, and simple future. The other tense of verb is called the perfect tenses. These are classified also into three, such as present perfect tense, past perfect tense, and future perfect tense. When we say present perfect tense, it tells an action that happened in the past and is still happening in the present. The main verb, which is written in its past participle form, is usually preceded by the word has for singular subjects. Of course, I and you, these pronouns are exceptions. And then have for plural verbs. For example, Jocelyn has worked as social worker in the city. In this sentence, has worked is the present perfect tense. Notice that it's formed by combining the auxiliary verb has because Jocelyn is a singular subject plus the past participle form of the verb, which is worked. Hence, has worked. How about past perfect tense? Well, it tells an action that happened and ended in the past before another action in the past took place. The main verb, which is written in its past participle form, is preceded by the auxiliary verb had. For example, I had cooked before he asked me to do so. In this example, the past perfect tense of the verb is written as had cooked. See, it's a combination of had and the past participle form of the verb, cooked. The last one is the future perfect tense. It tells an action that will happen and end in the future before another action in the future happens. It is written by combining the words will have plus the past participle form of the verb. For example, by the time I finish this project, I will have eaten more chocolates. In this sentence, we have will have eaten as the future perfect tense form. Actually, there are a lot more to talk about verbs. Its usage in sentences is quite complex and we're not going to have them all here. All of these things are just a portion of the verb's complexities. But why do we talk about verbs here? It's because verbs play vital roles in writing persuasive text. With good choice of verbs, your standpoints or opinions about issues get even stronger and more amplified. So aside from verbs, what else makes a good persuasive text? It's the descriptions, the pictures that we create with the use of modifiers like adjectives and adverbs. Let's take a quick look on adjectives. Adjectives are parts of speech used to modify a noun or a pronoun. They are used to provide descriptions of the items they modify. They answer these questions like what kind, how many, or which ones. There are various types of adjectives. These include descriptive, proper, limiting, interrogative, and coordinating adjectives. Descriptive adjectives tell the quality of a noun or pronoun. For example, beautiful house. The word beautiful describes the house. Friendly neighbor. Friendly describes the neighbor. Adorable husband. Adorable describes the husband. The next one is proper adjective. It provides a derivation of adjectives from proper nouns. Examples are German sausage, which means the sausage is German-made. Japanese tea. The tea is one from Japan. And Italian pizza. The pizza is a kind of pizza from Italy. Notice also that since these adjectives are derivations from proper nouns, their first letters are always capitalized. Interrogative adjectives. They are used to ask questions. For example, whose apple is this? And what fruits are we bringing? In the first example, the speaker asks about the specific apple as to who owns it. Hence, that specific apple is modified by the interrogative adjective whose. In the second example, the speaker asks about the fruits to bring, and the interrogative adjective what asks which ones of the fruits. Lastly, we have coordinating adjectives. They are composed of two or more adjectives separated by a comma instead of a coordinating conjunction. For examples, long, busy day, cold, wet evening, hot, dry afternoon, and funny, talkative teacher. In these examples, notice that two adjectives are used to describe each object. Those two adjectives are separated by a comma, and they are called coordinating adjectives since they are two. Moving on to the next essential types of words that we must have in our persuasive text, and these are adverbs. Adverbs are used to modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. They are analyzed by asking the questions when, where, why, how, under what conditions, and to what extent. First, we have the adverb of time. It answers the question when. Examples can be early, tomorrow, tonight, today, and yesterday. Say, the whole family will visit the best tourist destination in the north tomorrow. When will the family visit the best tourist destination in the north? We can answer tomorrow. Tomorrow is an adverb of time. The second one is the adverb of manner. It answers the question how. Examples can be slowly, quickly, loudly, beautifully, and many more. Say for example, the aged man walks slowly. How does the aged man walk? We say slowly. Slowly is an adverb of manner. Third is the adverb of place. It answers the question where. Examples are somewhere, nearby, and anywhere. We're somewhere near our destination. Where are we? Somewhere. Adverb of place. Next, we have the adverb of degree. It answers the question how much or to what extent. Very, quite, completely, little. These are just some of its examples. The newest edition of iPad is very expensive. How much is the newest edition of iPad? We say, it's very expensive. Very is an adverb of degree. Lastly, we have the adverb of frequency. It answers the question how often. Always, never, sometimes, and often are some of its examples. Let's use one in a sentence. The teacher reminds the students to always review their lessons. How often does the teacher remind the students to review their lessons? Always. Always is an adverb of frequency. So that's it. Verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are equally essential grammatical features in writing persuasive text. Just make sure that you use appropriate words to create a strong standpoint in an issue. They are powerful elements to drive your readers on your side and believe in your perspectives. We acknowledge Pivot for a learner's material for English 8 as the content source of this lecture and canva.com for the clip arts. I hope you learned something in this video lecture. For more lectures, make sure to follow this YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.